the Maelor School, Penley, and this is our BBC School Report. We all know it's been 100 years since the outbreak of the First World War, and there'll be a lot of discussion about battles, successes and failures. But what about women? The First World War started a revolution in the way people saw women and the way women saw themselves. So, we thought it would be interesting to explore the progress of women in terms of equality over the last 100 years. To do this, we sent a number of reporters to examine the struggle for equality over the last 100 years.
Have you ever heard of the glass ceiling? Well, did you know, in Wales, only 4% of women are in the top 50 companies. Only 5% are council leaders. As low as 18% of our MPs are women. And only 4 out of 22 local government chief executives are women. Is this because of a glass ceiling? Here in Wrexham, we're really fortunate to have a woman chief executive, and she's agreed to be interviewed, Dr. Helen Patterson.
So is this the room we're going to be in, Molly?
Yeah, this is Mr. Ellis's back room.
Oh, right. Excellent. And where would you like me to sit?
Just here.
That's good. In front of school report. Excellent.
Croeso Pnawn. It's really nice to see you, Dr. Patterson, and thank you for being here today. Have you ever experienced a glass ceiling?
Pnawn, Molly, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I suppose really I don't recognise that expression, glass ceiling, because for me it's about the best person for the job. So when I've gone for jobs, I've always had to feel confident that I am the best person for the job, and I've had to believe that the people appointing are looking for the best person for the job. That's not to say that most of my opponents when I've been going for jobs haven't been men, but I've had to believe I've been the best person for the job.
Given that's your opinion about a glass ceiling, what's your opinion on the introduction of quotas for women in top positions?
I suppose, Molly, quotas really concerns me, because if you think back to what I said earlier about the best people getting the job, then a quota creates, in some respects, an unfair disadvantage for women going for jobs. And I'd much rather people were treated fairly, whatever their gender.
Well, do you think more women should be in top jobs?
I suppose being a woman, the obvious answer to that is yes. But the reality is, I want better people to be in the top jobs. And frankly, if they happen to be women, then that's brilliant.
How do you think young women could be encouraged to try for top jobs?
I think that's a really good question. The answer is about senior women, I think, being used as role models. Can I give you an example? Just yesterday, I had a young lady from our youth parliament shadow me for the day. Her name was Annie. Women's International Day was Saturday, and she spent the day yesterday following me around, asking me all sorts of questions, coming into all the meetings that I was in. And then at the end of the day, we had a big discussion about my role and how, frankly, she wants my job. And that's a brilliant way to encourage her. More women doing that would be fantastic.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Patterson. It's been really informative.
My pleasure, Molly. Dayan diolch.
The First World War was a turning point in the lives of women across Britain. Not only did it reshape their day-to-day lives, but it also changed attitudes towards women in Britain. This year marks the 100th anniversary since the start of the Great War, so today I'm going to be looking at just how much it changed the role of women. Women were crucial in the war. Many worked in dangerous ammunition factories producing weapons, and many worked in less dangerous but equally as important jobs, such as train drivers, replacing the many men who had left. The amount of women in work rose drastically during the war, from just 24% in 1914 to 37% in 1918. The reason for this dramatic increase in working women was the war. 6 million men had left to fight, so women had to take their place in jobs that would have been done by men. However, although many more women were working, they were certainly not equal. Their pay was often half of that of a man doing exactly the same job. Yet despite this, it was still a huge improvement, because it showed that women were just as capable as doing most jobs as men were, and it also disproved the widely held belief that women were simply not as clever as men. But one thing is for sure, Britain certainly would not have won the war without the support that women generated back home. As a result of the war, in 1918, the Representation of the People Act was brought in. This meant that women over the age of 30 who owned a certain amount of property were allowed to vote. Yet it was not until 1928 that women's voting rights were equal to that of men. But women continued to struggle. It was not until the 1970 Equal Pay Act, over 50 years after the end of the war, that it was written in law that women should be paid equally to men. Even today, women aren't treated equally. A study released in 2012 showed that women working full-time were paid nearly 15% less per hour than a man in the same job. In another study taken out by the Chartered Management Institute in 2010, it said that women were not likely to receive equal pay until 2067. It is 100 years since the start of the war, and there is no doubt that women have made great progress since then, but it is clear that there is still a long way to go before we are fully equal to men.
Hi, I'm Abby, and I'm from the Maelor School Report, and I'll be looking at exploitation of women, and more importantly, how it affects teenagers today. What is the price of perfection? And more importantly, who defines what perfection is? For women, the answer is often the media. Social trends highlight how the media and its ideal image of femininity have impacted women in unprecedented ways. Women have always been objectified in advertisements and entertainment. But has the exploitation improved in recent years? Media portrayal of men and women can have a tremendous impact on cultural and gender ideals in society. Gender tensions are often created by exploitative media portrayal of men and women in stereotypical roles. Far more often than men, women are exploited by media moguls in order to promote the sale of goods and to create desire and interest in objects completely unrelated to gender. The media has created and supported the idea that sex sells. When it comes to provocative images of youth and beauty, women far surpass men in media portrayals.
Famous male sportspeople largely outnumber the female sportspeople. It seems that in a world thought to be developed and sophisticated, we find discrimination, segregation and favouritism towards the males for the more popular sports. When was the last time you watched a women's football game or heard about one? Or the last time you heard of a female sport being publicised? Sadly, sexism in sport is a large issue that is talked about but nothing is ever really done. It seems that only minute changes are taking place in order to make sporting a friendlier place for all genders. For example, over the last 114 years, 41 new sports have been added to the Olympic Games, including women's boxing, women's football and women's judo. Sadly, from a young age, girls are discouraged from the more physical sports such as football, rugby and basketball. This takes place in school physical education lessons where girls are encouraged to get involved in more sports but are made to do things such as dance, gymnastics and badminton instead of the more maybe physical sports. Sadly, girls in school have few female sports role models to look up to. Fortunately, things are beginning to change as there are more coverage in newspapers, television and on the radio, but more can be done. I'm Harry and this has been BBC School Report.
Can you name a female Formula One driver?
Women have made great strides through sports, but seem to find it difficult to break through in Formula One.
There hasn't been a female Formula One driver since 1992, and none of those drivers were ever successful. This has been highlighted by a development driver for the women's F1 team called Susie Wolff.
Susie's job is mainly based in the factory where she drives a simulator and carries out aerodynamic tests. However, at the end of 2012, she had her first Formula One test, and was asked to increase her role for the team in the 2013 season.
In July 2013, all eyes were on Susie as she made her first appearance in a full F1 test. She made a big impression, finishing 9th on the timesheets, just under 2 seconds behind four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel.
This year, Susie will drive in an in-season test, and the first practice sessions are in the British and German Grand Prix.
Susie said, "I'm grateful for the support and belief Williams continue to show me, and 2014 promises to be a very important milestone in my career." She continued to say, "Competing in 2 F1 sessions alongside an additional full test day this season will be a big step, and I am looking forward to the opportunity to get behind the wheel of an FW36 on a Grand Prix weekend."
After being on the grid in 2015, she said
that it was impossible to say.
"We both find her really inspirational.
And we wish Susie the best of luck on achieving her F1 dream."
I'm Katie.
I'm Martha.
And this has been the BBC School Report from the Maelor School.
After watching this report, how far do you think women have come towards gaining complete equality? And how much more needs to be done? More than you might think. Thank you for watching. This has been the BBC Report from the Maelor School.